It's time for a little Funky Friday. From their funky hidden headquarters, your hosts, Keith and Gary. Not Jerry.
I like that intro song. It is so bouncy. Keith's not here again, but this is going to be ending soon. This is the weekend for the funeral. And again, for those of you who haven't had a chance, send out your condolences and any love and prayers you have to Keith. It's been a rough week. He came on earlier saying he's going to be drinking over the next 48 hours a lot. And I know what he's talking about. I've had to drink my way through things too. Just fucking suppress the just everything. But in 2 weeks, I told him, I said, I'm putting the clock on you, motherfucker. I want you back because it's been rough doing the show without him. It's hard for me to do this show. And I need Keith. And Keith needs this show. A lot of people who know him personally, like John and I do, we know him personally. Martin, too. We know Keith. And Keith really needs doing the show. And it's killing him not doing the show. And by God, it's Friday. Hey. I want to thank Tom for doing that intro, as always. I'm never changing it. I love that intro. Tom's just got like one of those voices, infectious. Tom just made a joke on the line. First of all, Matt Kadish said something funny. He said, remember when Mangold told me to shut the fuck up and go back to my basement? And Deadline is just shitting all over his movie now. You know, it's proving that James Gold was full of shit.
Yep.
You know, so, and I told Kadish, I said, yeah, man, well, that bitch is crying in his basement. And then Shinatsky, being typical Shinatsky, is like, he got paid, sadly. And I'm like, yeah, but his movie's garbage. And he's got to carry that reputation. He has to carry that reputation with him. That he fucked up Indiana Jones, even though technically Spielberg did first with that last movie, Crystal Skull. Good God, that was
what
bad.
Last movie? There wasn't a last movie.
Yeah, yep. It's what do they call it? Part of the Mandalorian thing. I just instead of Mandela, I said
yeah. The Mandela effect. Yeah,
the Mandalorian effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it didn't exist. Look, that movie wouldn't have sucked so bad if they had made it Nazis again. Because here's my frustration with it: is Indiana Jones is at his best when he's fighting Nazis. Period. And his history, it circles around them. And the Nazis didn't end at the end of World War II. There are problems with them. I mean, has nobody ever heard of the Odessa file? That some of these guys escaped Germany, ended up in South America and Spain.
Yeah.
You know.
Indiana Jones.
In South Africa too. And in South Africa.
He should have went to Argentina to fight the Nazis there.
Yeah, it's like
and team up with Magneto.
Well, actually, I would love it if he had teamed up with Michael Fassbender. But that's the Magneto. Yeah, I love the original with Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Good God, man. Fassbender nailed it.
Yes. Yeah, he did a good job.
I got to tell you, both of them did. The little Scottish guy that took over playing Xavier. I thought everybody did a really good job. The only one I really didn't like was the redhead. I didn't think she was very good. From Game of Thrones, whatever her name is. She's not a very good actor. She's just terrible.
Oh,
Rose Leslie?
What?
Rose Leslie? The redhead
of the
from
man.
Game of Thrones.
It's Keith.
It's
Hey!
I heard that if you say Keith's name 3 times in front of a mirror, he shows up. Is that true, Keith?
I don't think that's true.
I try it all the time. Mm.
Hey, Kingsport.
I know it's
Yeah,
tough
man.
being friends with me, Keith.
Well, at least this is going to be the absolute last one.
One can only hope.
Next, from now on, it's going to be Fleabag and the Adventures of the Traveling Pants or something.
I don't think that's happening either.
No, look, what happened this week was done by Bob Iger. Look, I don't like Bob Iger. I don't. But at least he relegated Kennedy to doing other projects other than Star Wars, which is why we got The Mandalorian. People don't know that she was working on those other projects we kept hearing about, okay, that were not Star Wars, right? She was going to adapt that book into a movie. He put her on busy work to keep her away from Star Wars.
Was it Blood and Bone?
Blood and Bone,
Yeah.
that was it. He had her working on that and another project that were not Star Wars or Indiana Jones related. So other people could run those properties for her. He leaves, or doesn't really leave, but moves to another office and says, you take over, other Bob. And so Chapek takes over. Chapek is the one who put her back on Star Wars.
The Fall Bob.
Now, look, I had hopes for him that he might be David Zaslav for Disney, but he wasn't. He was a coward. He shit-canned one person. He was afraid of the board. He couldn't make a decision.
Let me at least speak up for Chapek.
Somebody should, because I don't like him.
The difference between David Zaslav and all the other studio heads is this. David Zaslav actually paid money to buy Warner Brothers, which means he gets to tell the board what to do. Okay? If Walt Disney were still alive, Iger would have to listen to everything that Walt says and do exactly what he's told. Versus an entire system set up where you are the chairman, but you still have a board to listen to. And the thing about it is, the board was filled with people, well, over half the board was filled with people who loved Iger. So it didn't matter what Chapek did. Now, the smart thing Chapek did, the reason why all the creatives hated him, was he instituted a system to not let the creatives have complete control over all the projects. His thing was to get all of the creatives, Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige, and others, to report to him before they did anything. And they hated that because they were used to somebody just giving them money and letting them go off and do whatever they wanted. So Chapek had to be getting ridden of because they were screwing. Okay, this is my thing, not affiliated with this show, but let me go ahead and at least tell you this. From everything I'm hearing, there most likely will be people going to jail. And part of it is because of what they did to Chapek. Not so much that they fired him. They did it to get rid of him because something was about to be exposed that he would have
FTX, right.
Yeah. So he's on NDA. He's got an NDA, and they paid him a whole lot of money. They didn't just fire him. They had him sign an NDA.
And you know what's interesting? That NDA isn't worth the paper it's printed on if there is a crime committed.
Yep.
Because if you committed a crime, that NDA is useless. Because he will have to spill his beans when he's questioned.
Oh, I think he wants to. I think he really wants to say something. I really do. And I think Iger and the rest of the board should be very fearful what Chapek has to say.
I have no doubt that, and I agree with you, but I'm not going to defend Chapek because Chapek is the one that brought Kathleen Kennedy back.
He did, but he let it be known what he was doing. Kathleen had so much power when Chapek was there. She was a lot worse with Chapek than she ever was with Iger.
Yeah.
And she openly defied him. And there was no way he could do anything about it because the board, more than half the board, was enjoying it. So
well, you know that there's a ton of leftist activists on that fucking board.
Well, he had a plan to let her basically sink Star Wars, but he was going to try to save Marvel.
Right.
That was an active plan that he had. And had he been allowed to stay, Kevin Feige would have had an extra best friend watching over his shoulder, making sure that the MCU at least got turned around, because the MCU has actually made more money and has paid for the cost of having bought Marvel. And Star Wars, according to all of the metrics that they have and everything they've released through Disney, they still have yet to pay back or make back all the money they spent to buy it. That's the difference.
Well, see, this is the problem, and it's cost you and me friends, including one person in particular in town in Springfield, because we were very critical of what they were doing, and pointed out that if a movie makes a little money, a little profit, that doesn't negate all the money that was spent before it, from the budget of that film to the marketing budget to the money that was spent in buying it. Because you heard a lot of people with Force Awakens go, well, that paid all the money back. And it's like, no, it didn't. They're still in the red. And they have never gotten out of the red. They have never turned. And it's so bad right now because, you know, I watch Culture Casino and Valiant Renegade. All they've got, Mexican Iron Man, our buddy, Mexican Iron Man is the one who went to pen and paper and said all they've got right now is spending money is $200 million. That's all Disney has.
Wow. That's all the money they have left
in the red.
That would make it 6 weeks, basically.
You can't even make a movie with that because there's no money for marketing. You could shoot it, but you couldn't market it.
That's petty cash for them.
Yes,
basically.
That's how bad it is right now. People don't understand. You got these people that just, you know, they just don't want to listen. And it's like, look, man, they created this problem. It started with Bob Iger. Yeah, Bob Iger started this shit. And he created the problem. If they had followed the plan was buy Marvel, buy Star Wars, and get boys coming back to Disney movies.
That's right. And look at it this way. The other thing that's going to cost them because of Bob Iger is Bob Iger was the one that when he came up with the idea and was selling everybody on Disney Plus, he was the one that said, "Oh yeah, we'll be in the red within a few years." I think he was saying
in the black,
2025. In the black. And
because you know black is good, right?
Yeah, in the black is really good because you know you always want to see the black. Anyway, but the other thing was the deal with Comcast about Hulu, and that is not just an arbitrary thing that was picked out of the air. That was part of the deal from back before Iger left, and they all knew that this date and this day were coming. And the thing is, the head of Comcast is part of the reason why the Fox deal was so expensive. Because Disney wanted the British network that they were going to get out of the deal, and the head of Comcast not only took that, he helped to drive up the cost of the entire deal. And now he's in the driver's seat. They all are in the driver's seat, but he's in the driver's seat basically to basically ask for I think minimum. About 12 to 15 million minimum for Hulu.
Billion.
Wow. Billion. So look, they are about as messed up right now. Disney's about as messed up could be. This is not just a minor mistake. They have lost a lot of money. And so if anything, all you people that don't want to listen to this need to understand something. Basic business. When you've got shareholders, that's really who you're answering to. And the shareholders are not happy.
Yeah, the shareholders matter. People confuse or conflate the board with the investors. They're two totally different entities. And explain to them what the difference is.
Well, okay. Shareholders are people that actually have bought into the company or have given of themselves to the point where they own a specific amount of shares of the company. Okay. So, for instance, say like if you owned like say even 3 shares of Walmart right now, oh, you're doing well for yourself. If you had bought in shares into Apple when Apple first started, and you had like 5 shares of Apple, do you know how much that would be worth today?
Millions.
And many of the people who they've done deals with, including George Lucas, when they bought them out, part of how they paid them the cost of what they wanted to give them for what they had was in stock. So a lot of that stock isn't worth the same as it was today.
Right.
So if you and I trade, say like I trade you first issue of Spider-Man, and you give me a lucky coin minted from the opening day of Disney World, that coin probably has lost a lot of value. You know.
Yeah.
It's unfair versus the board, which are our legal entity that is helping to guide the company. Now, many of them also are shareholders, but that's about the running of the company, okay, and making sure that you're making money to keep everybody happy. The other is just purely about the money. People who actually own shares in your business. So, and there are a lot of people that own shares. A lot of people.
Yep.
You've got some people who are depending on some of that for their golden years. So when the value of what they have drops, you are affecting really how much money they've made.
Yeah, Disney stock is in a lot of 401k profiles.
Ooh, I hate to think about that, man. I hate to think about that.
Yep.
I mean, seriously, that is, I keep saying it, but it's true. This is about the most messed up thing I have seen since I've started covering entertainment. I have never seen
at this point, though, it feels like they've let this go on too long. It's been a decade. I mean, as of 2024, it'll be a decade of them doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can recover from this without having to sell shit.
Well, they're going to have to sell something. Or that, or their ESG score's high enough they can just borrow it, which is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
still, they got until next year. Early next year.
January of 24. They've got to come up with at least $20 billion, because that's what Comcast's going to ask for, because they're going to look at the valuation, and while Disney's going to say, 9 to 12 billion, they're going to go, no, Hulu's worth a lot more than that, so we want 20 or 22.
Yeah, and here's how it goes. There was a time when Westinghouse was the preeminent manufacturer of shit for the house, like toasters, refrigerators. In fact, Westinghouse still to this day has more appliances in the average home than General Electric. That's why Westinghouse won and what's his name didn't. The cheater liar. You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of his name. Edison. Edison was a scumbag. But J.P. Morgan was close friends with Edison. And so he brought Westinghouse down by calling on a note early. You couldn't do that today. What he did was illegal. by today's standards. You couldn't do it. But he did that, and he crushed Westinghouse, broke them, and got to split it up, and everybody got a piece of it, except for Westinghouse. He got screwed. So we don't have that anymore. So today there are rules and laws around calling on notes. But I guarantee you that they're going to hurt Disney.
Oh, yeah.
In the pocketbook in doing this. They can't call on the note that the same way. You can't call on it early. But I'm telling you, it's gonna be a death by 1,000 cuts with them.
Well, they can't sell Lucasfilm because it's only worth about half what they paid for now.
Well, that's the rumor that's going out there, is that Cameron Pasha and Doomcock was saying that they both received information that a single person was interested in buying Star Wars back. And if they do sell it, they're going to have to sell it at a loss.
Yeah, well, they still are short like $2.5 billion on actually making enough money to pay for it.
Yep. So if that gets them the money, there's the potential, according to that rumor, that George Lucas may be the person interested in buying it back.
Well, he certainly got the money for it.
From the first sale?
Yeah, from the first sale. It's like, yeah, I sold it for 4.5, but I'll buy it back for 2.
But, and this is the second time that Disney's having to do something like that. Remember, they bought the rights from Saban.
For Power Rangers, and screwed that completely up.
Oh yeah,
and sold it back at a major loss. They bought it for like
half
$1
price.
or $2 billion, and Saban himself, Harry, what is his last name? Anyway, he bought it back for about $60 million.
Yeah.
So a steal. Look, if George Lucas does this deal, okay, I still can see Star Wars being kind of sort of related to Disney, in so much as I heard that same report from Doomcock, and what they had talked about was that the lawyers were meeting with Iger to work out the details.
They're parsing. It's exactly it. And this
basically
is what you and I talked about, Keith. I said, if they do it, Disney is going to want certain rights and licenses so they can keep the park open. They'll still want a percentage, but this is what I don't think they will have as a bargaining chip, that the sequel series has to stay active.
That's right.
I think that George Lucas would not make that deal. I think George Lucas, if he were to buy it back, would absolutely completely dissect or remake parts of that film in order to make it work.
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's is what this is going to become. I'm telling you, Lucasfilm overnight is going to become Five Nights at Freddy's. And I'm telling you right now.
Well,
I'm telling you right now.
Now we know Kennedy is out because you don't get that negative press like that with Kennedy unless somebody above her greenlit that, and that would be Bob Iger. When you see Fortune just nailing her to the cross, she went a bridge too far. She pulled the same shit with Iger that she did with Chapek, and Iger's, look, I don't like him, but he's not going to tolerate that shit from her.
Well,
I'm telling you. Oh, go ahead.
She's going from what she wanted, the Viking funeral pyre at the end of her career, to a hole back in Potter's Field.
Who's in that unmarked grave? I heard it was someone that worked on Star Wars or something.
But they don't have, it's like they can't sell, they can't sell Marvel because there wouldn't be any. What are they going to do? Sell it to Sony? Maybe. But I don't think Sony would buy it. They want to keep their own little section there. But I think the only things they can do, they can either sell Fox to generate this capital for January. But that would be a bad idea because they would lose a lot of content that they were going to stick on Hulu in the first place.
Yep.
So that leaves one property that they could set that they could conceivably sell without hurting them too bad, and that's ESPN.
I'm telling you right now, it's going to be Lucasfilm will basically be shut down, and it's going to take 6 months to maybe a year to restaff that completely. Now, anybody out there that thinks, well, that would never happen, you can't do that. You can. And here's the way that Lucas would do it. Ready? He picks up the phone, and everybody who either retired or has left Lucasfilm's employ since Disney bought them will get their jobs back or will be allowed to come back in. And you're running the company again, this time with people that you know that are loyal.
Yep.
That way they can get rid of all the rot and start again on working on projects like, I don't know, Disney would be more amenable to doing 1313, which is one of the projects that Lucas had tried to get made for a long time.
And Disney canceled it when they bought it.
Yep. Look, all of this stuff they planned is going out the window. And for all of you people out there who are fans of characters like Ahsoka, say goodbye, kids. Say goodbye. Because Lucas has always maintained that there has to be a verisimilitude even within Star Wars. Yep. And that Order 66 meant the death of every single Jedi that was not either Ben Kenobi or Yoda. That's it.
Yep.
And that's the real reason why a certain person decided to go and work for the dark side, a.k.a. Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
So the Ahsoka show is gone. All of it's gone. It goes.
What were you going to say, John?
There is one other property they could sell, and that's Pixar. Apple would probably pick that up.
Well, Pixar's been driven into the ground by the...
Yeah, it's not worth that much.
The woke who basically got everybody that had actual creative talent there fired.
Yeah, they all went. The
woke took
Skydance.
it over and just drove it. Yeah, Skydance is now what used to be Pixar. And look what they're doing. They're just kicking ass.
Some went to Skydance. Some of them went to DreamWorks.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this is just bad. And to anybody that's still holding out hope, you got to remember this famous line.
Famous line?
Yes.
We're waiting. Keith Areno.
Meanwhile, the famous line is...
Back at the Wayne Manor. Mike has joined us, our good friend, Comic Relief Crusader.
Yes.
I say good friend, but I don't really like him that much.
You're such a douche nozzle.
So how are you doing, Mike?
Well, living and breathing and making T-shirts and bitching about clients that coming in that want perfectly plain websites that just drive me nuts. So
it's just like any other day. Gotcha.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, we lost Keith. He's gonna make this
important. We lost Keith.
What's that called? A suspension. Let the
dun.
Waiting. We were waiting for real words, and he left us. He's a dick. No, hopefully he'll be back here in a sec. So we are talking about Lucasfilm, and of course, Doomcock was. And it's really funny, by the way. I'm going to bring this up. Doomcock's going to jump on with Don Ecker and me. I don't think we're ever going to get him on TGIF or any other show. Because, Wednesday he's available. He's not available the other days when we do shows. And it's the same story with Tom and Andre and Vulture, Valiant and Culture. Rolled together, they're Vulture. Vulture Renegade.
You can't plan that out.
It's like they're not available, because I would love to have them on these shows when we start talking about this shit. Because I'm just quoting them.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
And I'm bringing up things and bringing my own assessment that comes along with it, because just like before, I predicted things that was going to happen. I predicted Bob Iger's coming back. I said, oh, he's not. No, he would have left if he was really going. No, he's hoping for an opportunity to come and save the day. Miss me now? That's what Bob Iger was going with. Miss me now?
And unfortunately, it didn't work out that way for him.
No, because he's the one who created all the problems to begin with.
Yep.
He created the problems, left them for Bob Chapek to deal with, and then helped the board screw Bob Chapek, because he was part of that cabal that screwed Chapek. I don't even like Chapek. I don't think he managed very well. But I feel bad for him, what happened to him. It looks like Sox Bolton has got something to say here. From Sox, he says, this is just my own opinion, but could Disney lease out Star Wars to another company like other studios and have done with their own IPs? It's not a sell, just a lease, and they can still make money. They could.
I think they were considering that, weren't they?
I'm sure it's still on the table, but Lucas wouldn't do that. Lucas wants control. Lucas wants control, and he wants his baby back, because he expected something different than what he got. And that's why he made the comment early on that they got upset about, because he says, I feel like I sold my children to white slavers.
Yeah, totally.
And he was right to feel that way, because he was immediately betrayed by Kathleen Kennedy and then Bob Iger. Bob Iger, it didn't take much talk to convince him to do what he did. He had to make those decisions. Lucasfilm couldn't.
Well, I mean, then why sell it in the first place? Well,
I told you, the whole point of Disney, they had been polling. This is a known fact. You can go do your own research, due diligence, and find out what Keith and I know, which was that Disney had been polling, and they discovered that boys leave Disney at the average age of 11 to 12. And
yes, I remember.
They're just not interested in Disney anymore. Yeah. So Disney was looking for a way to get the boys' asses back in the seat.
Exactly, to be more badass.
Because they wanted to keep the boys the way they have girls, because girls grow up into women and they still love Disney. Okay?
Yeah, true.
Boys didn't feel that way. They wanted that from the boys. So they bought Marvel and they bought Star Wars. Well, Lucasfilm. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. In the process of doing that, all about getting the boys back in, and what do? They completely flip it and make it for girls.
Yeah.
And for others.
Yeah.
Less boy-like.
Quote, unquote.
And it's just ridiculous. And of course it blew up in their face and failed.
And I'm glad it did.
I am too, because, I hate admitting to it, but yeah, I absolutely do relish my moments of Schadenfreude. I like watching when people suffer to their own stupidity. I do.
No, because
when I say it's one thing if it happened to him ignorantly, where it's like, we didn't expect that. No, you went out of your fucking way to do it this way.
Yep.
Against logic and reason.
Oh, for sure.
And if you were told you shouldn't do that, there was a plan, and you fucked it up. And so I'm going to relish your fuck up and how you suffer through it.
No, because I remember hearing about this 11, 12 years ago that Lucas sold it to Disney. I'm like, what? First of all, it was dismay, what the hell? And then second, I'm like, this ain't going to work out for them. No, it's not, because Disney's going to fuck it up, because they're going to go in their own direction.
Exactly.
And even though that was the deal with Lucas about doing the last 3 movies that he wanted and totally backpedaling on, it's no, we changed our mind. Biggest fuck up. Biggest.
And a lot of people don't know, because Keith and I were the ones who talked about this. I've never heard anybody else talk about it but him and me. No. Nobody has ever talked about the fact, the reason why John Carter failed. It wasn't because it was a bad movie. It was because the marketing was cut.
Exactly.
The money that was supposed to go, it was taken from John Carter to pay part of the package deal with Lucas.
Yep.
That's why it failed.
And it was somewhat of a decent movie. I mean, I didn't mind it.
I love the film.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay,
exactly. It was just a marketing that sucked ass.
Yeah. By the way, although I do like the trailer for it because they use "My Body Is a Cage" with Peter Gabriel. That's a great fucking song.
Yeah.
But why did Lucas sell Star Wars? He didn't need the money. That's not why he sold it. It had nothing to do with the money. It had everything to do with, partly to do with family.
Yep.
But the other reason why he sold it, Keith's back. The other reason why
I didn't do it.
That was me. I'm sorry.
The other reason why Lucas sold it was because people don't quite remember in those early days of the Old West, I mean the internet, the prequel trilogy really got wrung out over the coals, and Lucas really got attacked over it.
Yeah.
You had a movie made, Fans versus Lucas. Remember that documentary?
Yeah.
Star Wars
People
fans versus Lucas.
The people versus George Lucas.
Putting that on trial. It was a mock trial, and
look, it's an engaging thing because we all know he fucked up with it. He made one of the biggest mistakes ever that he ever made, and it was that he relied too much on his skill as a writer. Hey, Steven. He relied way too much on his own skill as a writer. And he's not a very good writer. He's a really good story guy and idea guy.
No, totally, 100%.
And because he took credit for the Star Wars book for years. And it wasn't him. It was Alan Dean Foster that wrote the novelization of Star Wars.
Yep.
And there's a lot of weird shit in that script that he got from the original script.
See, and the other thing was... Oh, go ahead, Keith. Sorry.
Well, I still had a point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I definitely want Keith's opinion on this because he and I are the only two that talked about some of this stuff.
My apologies.
Keith and I are the only ones that ever talked about John Carter. The money going into John Carter ended up going into the package deal with Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the film tanked. But also the fact that Lucas left and wanted to sell Star Wars because of his experience of his frustration over his dealing with fans, because he misunderstood something in his own mind, which is, this is my story. And he learned the same lesson that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle learned with Sherlock Holmes. Do you guys know what happened there?
Yep.
He killed Sherlock Holmes.
Oh,
and
yes.
it almost destroyed his career.
Nope.
Yeah.
And they were not going to have that shit. And eventually he had to bring him back to life after the incident at Reichenbach Falls.
No.
And he brought him back and said that he faked his death and wrote on until the 1900s. You know, and Lucas kept considering Star Wars his. It's his baby. Yes, you created it, but once you introduce it to an audience, it becomes partly theirs.
Exactly.
And they have some of that gravitational weight of where it goes. And if you displease the fans.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the other reason that because he was getting pretty old and he didn't feel like doing the movies anymore? Or was it because of the fans that he would say something?
Well,
it was partial.
Yeah.
It was partial. First of all, there was, I think, the fan-made documentary, which pretty much crapped on him. That did not.
Yeah, the one we were talking about. We just talked about it. I'm glad you're here. It was the people versus George Lucas.
Yeah, and it was also the criticisms of the prequels, which like the Jar Jar Binks and all like that stuff. And secondly, hello chat, hello panel. Sorry about that. That was from last night's stream. We were making fun of the panelists, and that was. I forgot that image was still
sure it was.
Go check out Rancor. Go check out Rancor Steve. I'm not joking.
I mean, I don't know. I'd like to.
But yeah, and honestly, if this is based off the rumor that George might buy back, I highly freaking doubt it. If that's what we're basing this on, the conversation, because I just got here.
What do you say that again?
Look.
The rumor that was going around that George Lucas is supposedly in secret talks to buy back.
Look, that's Cameron Pasha. If you want to shit on Cameron Pasha, and
no, that's not
that's
shitting.
Your business.
No, I'm not shitting.
No,
on
if you want to say poo-poo stuff against him, that's fine. Go ahead.
I'm going on the relevance that Doomcock was trending again last night, and that was one of the stories covered. This is nothing about pooping. I'm trying to figure out where we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're just saying that they're liars.
Yes, Gary, you're dyslexic and full of shit. Yes, we know. Hold on.
You're such a hoser, eh?
You're such a hoser, eh? That's right. We've got 2 Canadians on the show right now.
Yeah.
Keith, your thoughts on this?
I will say this. There's a lot that you can say about Lucas before the Disney film.
He doesn't like sand.
At least he managed to make sure that everybody worked on books and other things got paid. That's the thing about Alan Dean Foster. The moment Disney took over, a lot of these people that were getting paychecks stopped.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Alan Dean Foster got really screwed.
He had to sue Disney to finally get paid.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't think he got that much before he passed away.
No, he didn't.
Wow.
They shorted him a lot.
That's not the only property they did that to. They did that with Marvel. That's part of the reason why for all these new characters they keep introducing, because they don't want to have to pay the people that are supposed to get paid from having created characters and everything. That's
Exactly.
the whole reason why CBS and Kurtzman are doing what they're doing with Star Trek and all the other properties. This is partially about money more than anything else. And
it's always about money.
Did you guys cover KK
gotta,
saying no to season 2 of Obi-Wan? It's a no-go?
I'm not surprised. That
Ooh, imagine my shock.
There's an article. Yeah.
But going back to Alan Dean Foster, when they bought 20th Century Fox, it was the same issue again with the Alien books that he wrote, as well as other film titles that he adapted that he was getting paid royalties for.
Yeah.
Alan Dean, and it's just a sign of the times when you see shit like that. That stuff usually you didn't hear about publicly because it was dealt with behind, closed doors. But Disney completely foobarred everything.
Yep.
Everything. Fubar. So, but
it's sad, but it's also to be expected for a major corporation that no longer deals with even the creatives who they say they admire and that they love and that blah blah blah. They don't. It's all just talk. It literally is all about money and power, but money.
Yep.
And the moment they went down that road, their face was pretty much sealed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we can put it this way. There's definitely a trend that doesn't have to do with Lucasfilms. Let's look at I guess we can look at Indy's opening predicament on a holiday weekend at 60 million.
That's 60 million. Oh, that's so hilarious. Oh my
And now, did you see Little Mermaid's announcement today? You can now hear Scuttlebutt in 8 different languages. You know what my reply was? No one wants to hear it in one language.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it hits 55.
I'd rather clean out my ears with an ice pick than listen to that.
You know what? Here's the thing. I don't think Lucas is really going to buy back Star Wars, but I believe that Lucasfilm was going to get damaged enough. We're bringing in George Lucas to fix Lucasfilm will probably be the best thing they could do. Because if they were to announce that tomorrow, you and I both know that the stock market would go freaking crazy.
Yeah, Keith, the stock market might go crazy, but we're looking at a predicament where Disney has taken a franchise that was based for both males and females, princesses and princesses, and literally deterred it into a job career killing for any actor or actress's franchise. No one's going to want to purchase or buy this because they would have to do a resurrection story due to the fact that the toxin they put in there. Anyone who purchased this or invested this, even if it's George Lucas, still has to deal with the whole fact of what is it going to be now? Is it going to be the same crap? And how much more bullshit and lies are we going to get? It is no longer about saving a franchise. It's about saving the fans that are the fandom.
Steve and I covered that before you got here. So
I'm sorry. I'll go back in time and try to make up for that. I'm sorry.
No. Let me at least put it this way, okay? Let me. Okay. Basically,
No, I want to see him go back in time.
All right.
Oh, he has to use the Dial of Destiny.
You know, I knew Dial of Destiny go back to when Gary was funny. That'll give me about 50 years.
We've got to find more garbage for Mr. Fusion.
If you really wanted to make sure that you're not going to run into the same problem, that'd be easy for Lucas. He could easily do that. You go back and rehire all the people who had either left with him when he sold Lucasfilm, or anybody that's left within the last 5 years, 10 years really, that was forced out of Lucasfilm. You bring all these people back after you fired everybody at Lucasfilm.
The old guard you're talking about, getting back the
old
guard.
But
even then, though, the problem is that still falls under the old guard. Do they want to come back? Everyone doesn't want to come back. They have to get rid of the activism within all of those groups. Even if Lucas got back, he still have to clean house. But he's taking care of kids. I don't think he's going to. I think who was going to buy it instead of Lucas? Who was the other person who was bidding on it? Not Luke, besides Disney.
I can think of one person right now who would have the money to do that and would be interested.
It'd be Apple.
It would either be Apple or it'd be Amazon.
Amazon, no. No. After Lord of the Rings, no. It would literally have to be Apple.
I don't know. He's got the money, and he's definitely a sci-fi.
Elon Musk to buy it.
They're too busy burying dead horses off the set to buy Lucasfilm. I'm sorry.
This is what I think is going to happen. If it does happen, I think Lucas will buy back pennies on the dollar, hire back the old guard, bring back Lucas Arts. That was one of the things that they axed as soon as Disney got it. Bring back Lucas Arts, okay, and then recorrect everything that was done. Right?
There's still a problem. No, but
exactly. Give us our Jar Jar Binks trilogy.
No, there's still a problem here. They have to make up for not only the loss on Lucasfilms, they have to make up for the loss of the Stark market value as well, and Hulu. There is no way the sale will help either of them unless someone's going to dip a lot of money. What we were talking about yesterday on Pro Show is there's a good idea would be going in as a half investor, and that would be either Apple or Amazon, to not take over, but to help rebuild. And that means they would have more say. They can't sell Lucasfilms in general because their market value is already affected, and anything else would deter it. I hope I'm.
Well, if Lucas were to take back over, that would also cause a major change in the projects that they have, and in the general direction of a lot of things that they really put a lot of time and unfortunately money behind. Look,
it's too late though. The original cast is gone.
No. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's not what I'm talking about. No. I know that. I know that the original cast is gone. But if you were to make a genuine effort to actually course correct with really good stories and get rid of all of the people who are causing problems behind the scenes, I think you might be able to do something. Now, I'm not saying that out of the gate they'd be able to release a movie and that movie make $1 billion. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I know.
But what I am saying is that you're going to have to make an effort to course correct away from the Disney version of it. And I think that's where you get into the whole worlds, beyond worlds, and
in between worlds.
Worlds between worlds.
Yeah.
By doing that, there are a lot of hardcore fans, a lot of us in this room right now that would easily at least be there for that. And
yeah.
Once we start feeling comfortable with it, especially once we start buying into the merchandise, I think you'll make it easier that way. Now, is it going to solve every single problem? No, it's going to take time. It took time to get to this point. It's going to take time to dig out, because there is no such thing as any one project that's going to be able to cure everything. That is never going to happen.
No. At this point, Disney has taken on the name of J.J. Abrams and are the destroyer of franchises because of politicism in their stuff. Even then, though, they're still trying to take over Hulu, and that whole debacle, whether or not the Fox library and ABC library will even hold them up. And then on top of that, they still have to make up for the difference. And I don't think George can say that.
They're trying to. They have to.
Yeah, they have to. Yes.
Yeah.
They've got 7 months to come up with 20 billion plus to cover what's going to cost to pay for Hulu.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, impossible. Shinatsky, first of all, I'm going to go into this one more time. This is a rumor within a rumor. Okay, it's not just a rumor; it's a rumor within a rumor. The rumor is that there was an individual, wealthy individual, interested in buying it, and both Doomcock and Cameron's insiders alluded that it could possibly be someone like George Lucas, not that it was George Lucas. The George Lucas part is for those of us that would like to see the ship straightened up. And that's all we really want. That's all we really want. To make big ado about it being George Lucas is ridiculous. So saying that rumor is overblown, you're overblowing it by saying it. And you're part of the whole rumor thing too yourself. What I find interesting is that the biggest voices that are shitting on this news don't have one fucking insider. Think about it.
Sure. I wasn't shitting. I'm going to say this before Gary.
Well, I'm saying shitting means poo-pooing on it.
Well,
anybody poo-pooing on it. You are poo-pooing on it.
I'm not.
You about it.
Yeah, I know you're teasing me. That's where I was going with. Like Gary said,
I'm teasing you in a playful way because I know you're not shitting on him or Cameron, but you're poo-pooing on the rumor, and that's okay. I actually have no problem with you poo-pooing on it, buddy. Don't worry about it. But the fact is, Shinatsky's poo-pooing on it too. And when you do that, you're part of the rumor mill yourself now. You've done that. Well, but here's the difference between you guys and Doomcock and Cameron Pash is they know people within that place and have insiders giving them information. So I love the poo-pooing on, but there's one other person that outright called, we lost Keith again, that called Doomcock a liar. I'm friends with that guy, and I'm like, you're being an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, who the fuck do you know? Oh, nobody. I know the person. They don't know fucking shit. They don't know fucking shit.
See,
they just they're doing something that I don't like, which is making a show about shitting on somebody else. And they're directly attacking Doomcock to get reviews. And that's fucking cheap, man. That's cheap. That's why I'm not going to say their name because it's a cheap fucking thing to do. And I absolutely unsubscribe to him from it because it's like, look, man, if you want to criticize and stuff like what you're doing, Steven's fine. You know, you're well within that arena of saying things correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
What he was doing on his show last night was not. It was unkosher. He put it on the fucking thumbnail too, calling him a liar. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to watch you anymore, dude.
Yeah.
I don't think people like that are being, that's wrong to do that. It's wrong.
I mean, there's a few things I've gotten wrong on my channel. It's like everybody's entitled to their freaking opinion. My God, get over shit. It's a rumor. You know,
rumors are rumors. Take them with a grain of salt.
Supposed to guess.
I don't think it's George Lucas. I hope it's George Lucas, but I don't think it is.
No.
You know, it's highly unlikely. I think Elon Musk is more likely. I agree with you here, Shinatsky. You're right there.
Yeah.
I think Shinatsky it gets it right there that Elon Musk might very well be that person because I know he's a fucking nerd. So, but
he would have the patience to be able to get that done, which is really what you need.
Reed Dragonriz is here. I would love to see Mel Gibson buy Star Wars. Just think, a cop policing the universe and danger awaits around every corner.
See, I don't even see if you narrow it down, like you have to think the aspects. If you had somebody who's going to come in and try to do an investment to Star Wars or give it a hand, like out of the landish, it might be someone like think about it, if they decided to like hire on people like Zack Snyder or even like other weirdos to come in. No offense, Snyderites, calm down. To even try to help fix Star Wars. I don't think they can. And look at the Galactic Star Cruiser. That whole hotel shutting down. That was their prime investment with no windows or escape plan. I think it's reaching the point where Star Wars, if unsalvageable, will just hit that 30-year silence mode because it's going to have to. 30 years to rest.
I'm telling you, I can see how you can see that. But if you start bringing in some major names like John Favreau, after all of this blows over,
that's why he's still there. I believe he's still there because he knows he's going to outlast.
Until I see a New Hope in actual articles and proof, I will just wait and see, because honestly, that's all I can't do healthy, right? Because
there are a lot of talented people who owe really their careers to Star Wars, whether by way of influence because they saw it when they were younger, or by way of having worked for Lucasfilm at one time. See, Kathleen Kennedy isn't the only one that can call in some favors. The thing is that George Lucas is an old-fashioned guy. And I'm not saying that his is the only way to get there, but you also have to understand there are people who have been spat upon, made fun of, have been genuinely targeted, that once Kathleen and her people are gone, it will be very easy to support.
It goes up to Iger, I think, too, though, Keith. But like you're saying, even if the people are gone and you get 90% of them out of there, Disney's history right now over the last 10 to 15 years is they don't focus on talent. They focus on the activist mentality. They don't look at a resume. They look at the billboard face value. Are you black? Are you Chinese? Oh my God. Do you have both genitals down there? Well, come on in and write a script for me.
Yeah, but Steven, you just sold somebody on a reality TV series as far as
Stormy Daniels already hosted that one.
Oh, geez. I just think that you can do a lot with this, and there'd be a lot of people that would come in to help out. And one of those things, look, I'm telling you right now, if you are a big fan of Ahsoka and all the stuff that goes into that, that's the only thing that you'll be sad about, because I think Lucas is going to follow through with what he had stated before, that those characters are gone. And so,
hey, we got to save this for after the break. We got to leave for our commercial break. We'll be right back after this message. Hi, guys. This is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh wow, we survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
Ma, I'm doing a show.
I love Bill's voice, man. So you were saying, Keith, before we went to the break.
I was saying that rebuilding Lucasfilm might not give everybody on all sides what they want, but it would be very easy to at least bring in a significant number of people who have fallen away for various reasons. And once the rot is out of the company, it'll be easier to go ahead and greenlight even certain projects that would get a lot of hardcore fans back into this, like 1313.
Yeah.
If they were to announce that, there are a number of hardcore fans that would be all about that. And let's just say, look, Heir to the Empire, they're trying to do that. Well, once Lucas comes back in, there is a way to do that, just not as live action. You go ahead and make an animated version, and that'd be also a way to help jumpstart a new version of Disney animation that they're going to basically need some new blood coming into that.
Keith,
there are ways to do this.
Keith,
go ahead.
Keith, what you're suggesting, and maybe you're saying it without realizing it, is that what they should go back is to the He-Man model, make the toys, then make a cartoon, and build up again through animation. If you start bringing back in stories from the Rim and you start introducing new characters, and you can see where your sales and merchandise lie based off that cartoon, you know where to go next in your featured film. And it doesn't have to be a remake or a live action. It could be an animated film, not Visions, something different that goes back to the lines of Droids or Ewoks, not the same animation, but build it up that way. Take the He-Man model from the 80s, build your show around your toys, and make the merchandise grow in its old way rather than falling back to a cobweb trio, as they say.
It's marketing. It's just proper marketing.
Yeah.
I want to get into some of our chat. Okay, we've got a lot of comments that are started. I got to read these things. So, one, I like this one. Shanatsky says, Elon could be trying to buy Star Wars for all we know.
No.
I would love to see Mel Gibson. We read that one already. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Imagine a Saudi prince buying Star Wars. That'd go over like a lead balloon. Seth MacFarlane secretly trying to buy it because they won't sell him Star Trek. So I thought that was funny. What if Michael Eisner was coming back for revenge?
I would love that.
I'm sick of the internet fights myself. It's like watching two cripples fight. It can be amusing, but the longer you watch it, the dirtier you should feel. And and then finally, Shanatsky again. I've accepted that Star Wars is over. I don't agree with this. I'm going to tell you why. I just sit back and enjoy the company drama, which is better than any Star Wars show. It is not over. It never will be over because there's good Star Wars still. We still have the original Star Wars. We have Empire Strikes Back. We still have Return of the Jedi. And then, of course, the prequels. We also have those Ewok shows and the animated special from the holiday special. We still have all of it, and it'll never die. It's always going to be there. So Star Wars isn't dead.
Well,
the current iteration of making new Star Wars is dead.
Disney made one good Star Wars movie,
and
that was Rogue One.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which fits in seamlessly to A New Hope. That you can kind of see why it's going to stand the test of time over anything else Disney's done.
Monkey, you can get access to those things online.
I have it.
I have them. I have the original cuts.
Yeah.
Ditto.
And so you definitely have access to it. Oh, fuck. Look who's here.
How you doing?
There we go.
Living.
Damn it. I had it under control. Fuck you, Martin. Jesus
I am not doing it. I am not doing
swear
it.
to God, I had it organized. And
it's not me. My hands are off the controls.
Hello, Mr. Nice. Sorry about this. I'm new here.
This is my buddy Brett. He is a fellow colorist in comics. I love his color work. I really do. You're outstanding, dude. But what I like about you is I follow you on Twitter and on Facebook. And I like the shit you say. It cracks me up.
It's because you're white.
It's because I'm white. And look who's
Who
here.
knew?
It's Keith, who is not white, contrary to what people think. There are two different Keiths. There's white Keith and there's black Keith. And this here, that's black Keith. We haven't seen white Keith in a while. I miss him. He's a lot of fun. But Brett, welcome back to the Madhouse. I'm glad you're here. I know you're not.
Good to be here.
Quit lying. So what's going on with you, man?
Just working. Got a cover in today from Eric July.
Sweet.
Doing some stuff for Chuck Dixon, some old Winter World 80s stuff. Also working on a children's book. Got Butch Geis Gosh, gonna launch a new podcast here pretty shortly. Just working on kind of some finishing touches, little details, and
anything you're allowed to show?
Gosh, I did post the Winter World stuff yesterday. That's on my Twitter feed. That's Jorge Zaffino, who I don't think is with us anymore. Which is too bad because he's just beautiful art. In fact, I ordered these. Got these off eBay, and they're all in really nice shape. Because I'm coloring some stuff for Chuck, and I just kind of wanted to see what Jorge did originally, just to kind of see his take. And I'm not using it as reference or anything like that, but it's more like
you want
the characters
continuity.
Exactly.
Continuity.
Exactly. But I'm kind of trying to do my own thing, but also, kind of make it kind of organic looking.
I did the same thing when I did the Army of Two comics.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped in and I looked back at the previous colorist I wanted to make sure it wasn't jarring.
Yeah.
And how, like, the way I color my own stuff is different than the way I did for IDW.
Well, and it's like this. It's like, this dude's blonde. She's a blonde. That's more of kind of what I was kind of going for. And like this guy's like in a bright red shirt the whole time. So, giving
it's
it a modern
continuity
feel.
thing. Yeah, I get it.
Continuity of characters, but
it's
also
like if you've ever done any work for, like, I almost went to work for Nickelodeon, and I got sent a book.
Yes.
Color swashes of every character.
Yeah.
And these are the colors. And I looked at that, and you know what my words were? Yeah, I'm not going to work with them. That's just too complicated. You're making it too hard.
Well, back in the day when we do color guides, you would go in and color these
like
things
Batman
markers.
has a very specific shades of blue.
Right, and you would mark down what Pantone colors they were, so the computer guys would go in and use those exact tones. It was the same for like the color separators back in like before we went full digital. And it's like I've got that mythology book from Bruce or no, it's not that one. It's the Batman Bruce Timm book. It's the animated series.
Yeah.
And it's got a bunch of the artboards, the pages that he did for DC, and he's got all of the Pantones marked. It's just like YB028 and like YB260, like these different swatches that the guys can look up. And
well, exactly. And
I don't miss those days, dude. Those days sucked.
I got that with G.I. Joe when I did the G.I. Joe cover.
Yeah.
Even though I ended up not doing the colors, I wish I had, because I'm a better colorist than the guy who did it. I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I really hated his colors on my work. I'm very touchy about who colors my artwork. See, I would let you do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Bankman's got it. That's what they're called, hex codes.
Hex codes.
Right. Yeah, but that big book that you got from Nickelodeon, I got the same thing from Film Roman when I tested for The Simpsons. I just got this. I got all this stack of stuff, and it's
a thick book, and a character on each fucking page. All their colors.
It was cool. It was cool getting all that stuff, but it was intimidating at the time. So.
Yeah. By the way,
and then you do all that work, and then you find out that they're only going to pay you $40,000 a year to live in Los Angeles.
It's the same with Disney. I got a letter to have me come down for an interview. Okay, Disney Studios.
What era was this?
This is back in the 90s.
90s. Okay, so this was when they wouldn't allow any facial hair. Like you couldn't have a mustache, you could have a goatee.
Yeah.
It was even though Walt had a mustache,
They were weird, but when I got some of the things that they were expecting, and then what they told me my job would be, I was like, no. My job would have been as an eraser.
Oh,
you know what that is.
Really? Yeah.
That's how they start you out in their art department. Yeah. You start out, unless you're an already established name, you are going to be an eraser.
Bottom of the barrel.
And I'm like, nah, I'd rather be a a big fish in a small pool than a small fish in a big pool.
I was told by Film Roman it would be props. It would be prop design is where I would start.
Really?
Because my thing, you know, I mean, everybody wants to storyboard, you know, or do keyframes, and I wanted, you know, in on the art department from that standpoint. You know, I did not want to be in the animation side at all. I wanted to be in some form of pre-production. And it was,
and that's where I like being too. By the way, when I work on films, I like being pre-production or
absolutely.
the poster art.
Yeah, I that's the fun part for me. I mean, some guys like to do the finishing stuff, but I like the beginning. And I had done some pre-production stuff for Rainbow Animation Studios in Phoenix, and their kind of claim to fame was what the hell was that game? It was Motocross Madness. That was the game that they kind of launched them, and this is going way back, early 2000s. And then they did that animation series for Starship Troopers, which was kind of early 3D. So and then we were working on an Action Man film, you know, and they had like 30 minutes of it done, but they could never, you know, lure any big money into it to come in, you know, producers to come in and say, yeah, we want to produce the whole thing. But they were able to use some of that footage to launch the Starship Troopers 3D series, which, you know, I mean, you go back and you look at it now, and it's like looking at Beast Wars. You're just kind of like, yeah, you know, it was cool at the time, but it looks very dated and just kind of weird now in a lot of ways, as a lot of that early 3D does.
Hey, I just pulled this up and I wanted to share it with everybody. It's the artwork you were just showing a minute ago.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I always like to throw in the inks just to kind of, you know, basically explain to people. It's funny how you know, when I tell people I'm a colorist and they have no idea what that is, I always try to explain to them that, you know, the artwork that I get is black and white. It's line art. They don't even understand what that means. So I'm like, you know, a coloring book. So whenever I post my work now, I always post the artist's line art and then the finished product, because, you know, it's just very hard to explain to people what a colorist does, which is, you know, you'd think would be kind of simple, but to the layman,
look, I took on a job with a buddy of mine. We're still close friends. He's been on the show. Mm-hmm. He's a comic pro, and I poked so much fun at him, and I yelled at him a couple times because he didn't understand workflow of how to do colors. Richard Bonk was the artist on the book, and I was coloring his work. And Richard and I go back a long way. I love working with him.
He's a great artist. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll pencil, he'll ink, he'll pencil, I ink. But then I end up going, I want to color this when it's done. And I've colored a lot of his work. And this poor guy could not understand the workflow. Mm-hmm. And I said, once you approve the fucking flats, you don't come back and tell me to change the colors.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes, well, what are and he goes, what are flats? And I'm serious. This is the look I went.
Yeah. I mean, I farm my flats out most of the time. So when I get them back, you know, it's nothing that I end up using. I go in and I reflat everything. But I used to.
Well, you know that when you do your flats, you do your basic flats just to have the fillet.
Yeah,
that's it. Then you go back and you start using the colors you're going to use the base.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I would show him to get approval from him so I could build on it. Because that's what it is. What we do is called build up. Color, you know, comic colorists do build up. We're not always the flatters. In fact, I bet you feel the same way as I do. I hate flatting.
I don't like flatting. No, I'd rather be rendering.
It's horrible.
Yeah, well, and my whole thing is if I have nothing to render, then I will flat. But if I am actively rendering, I'm not going to waste my time flatting. I'm going to send it to South Korea, to Seoul, and have somebody.
The Philippines is where I send it to. I send it there to have somebody. I pay them between $10 and $15 a page, based off of what I'm getting paid, and that's why I always kind of tell people my page rate, and I always up it by $15.
Sure.
So I can add the flatting to it.
I have a question
to do. It's worth the time to do that from that standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah.
Brett, I have a question. It's also a special request. I'm looking to make a comic featuring Down syndrome Gary. Can you do that for me?
Who's Down syndrome Gary?
Do you know why nobody takes you seriously, Steven?
I put his face on a Down syndrome McDonald's employee.
Right there. I put it right next to you, Brett, so you can hang out with Down syndrome Gary.
Those are old school Happy Meals. Do they even make those anymore? I don't think
Well, that's the only happiness he had.
Do they? I don't know. It's been too long since I bought one.
Do they even have Happy Meals anymore? Do they allow? Does McDonald's?
Yeah, they do. They still do.
Children anymore?
They're not. They're not made for kids anymore.
You go in there, it looks like
I will tell you, one McDonald's here in town. Well, it's actually in Lebanon. It's not even Springfield. Still has the playroom.
Wow.
It's the only McDonald's I know that has one. By the way, William has joined us. William is owns his own comic shop, and it's more than just a comic shop. He has gaming. He has shows movies. William, this is my good friend Brett Smith, who is an amazing colorist. He sucks as a person. I know this.
No.
You got any questions for him, buddy?
Endorsement. What's that?
Wow. You were really bass there. Like James Earl Jones level. Let's turn your bass.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle. I'm about to do a teleconference. That's why I got everything set up weirder than I would for a normal stream, because they use a different program to do the teleconference, and a lot of times they can't hear me.
Right.
I end up repeating myself. So we're just waiting on that.
Yeah, same thing with Bill earlier, our producer. He came in all like, roo, roo, roo. It's like, what the fuck, dude? But you got any questions for Brett? Because you're a comic book guy.
No. I mean, I've never been that knowledgeable to this level. I mean, I'm a comic book nerd, but when it comes to the technical dynamics, you guys are speaking like NASA to me right now. When it comes to,
I'm just. Well, it's like I think the first thing I learned was mind the gutter. That was one of the first things I was told. Mind the gutter. And somebody asked why on so many of my comics I make the gutters black. And I bet you Brett knows why, because it makes the colors pop.
Yeah, and it also makes it more cinematic.
Very cinematic.
Yeah, it makes it look, especially when you got wide angle frames and you've got black surrounding it. It looks like you're in the theater.
Horizontal frames.
Right, and the first time I saw that was on Ultimates with Brian Hitch and Mark Millar.
Yes.
And of course, Brian drew all of those pages very cinematic. There's just lots of wide angle shots. And in fact, there's a lot of pages where there's just basically 4 white storyboards stacked on top of each other, and even the big huge splashes and the grandiose fold outs, all that stuff makes it look like super cinemascope from like the 50s or something. It's just absolutely beautiful. So somebody tweeted the other day, when did you stop reading Marvel comics? And for me it was probably around 2011 when Mark left, because I was not really into anybody else, and nobody spoke to me personally more than Mark. Right? What's that?
You follow Mark Millar, right?
Yeah, we're buddies. I've been able to get to know him and
I love his
slide into his DMs.
He's very based, and I like that about him.
Well, Mark's not a conservative. Mark's not.
No,
I don't think. No. I think Mark is a little bit left of center, but
I think it's a mistake to think that only conservatives can be based. No.
Mark hates globalism. He hates the World Economic Forum. He hates Klaus Schwab. So I mean, there is a part of him which I think is a classical liberal, kind of like the Gen X liberals, and some of the guys who are more kind of
old school
centrist.
It's like Keith is what we refer to as a blue dog Democrat.
Yeah. I mean, the Reagan Democrats. But Mark was able to write for everybody. No matter kind of what title he was on, I think he was trying to reach a general audience, and I always really admired him for that. And I think that's ultimately what we all ought to strive for. I tried watching that. I was not a huge fan of that series. I thought it was,
I don't know if that's him or if that was Netflix that screwed that up.
I think it was probably Netflix, because I don't like what they've done with The Boys either. They've turned it into a mouthpiece for anti-gun crap. I mean, the minute I turned it off was in the car with We Didn't Start the Fire, and then the whole anti-gun stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm done. This is a fucking lecture, and this is not in the comic book. And I don't I don't understand why that kind of shit needs to be shoehorned into a series.
Yeah, and I don't want to lecture from anybody.
kind of
I don't care if it's left or right. Fucking, if I want to go to church, I'll fucking go to church. If I just want to read a comic book, I expect to read a good story.
No, it's even, you talk about, church. I mean, I'm reading articles, from, that turn into like proselytizing. It's like it starts out an article about a certain show, and then by the end I'm getting preached to, and I'm just like, I didn't know this was a religious site. I thought it was a pop culture site.
Well, that's just it. It's people just tend to get overly didactic today, and it started like 30 years ago, really.
Isn't that the stuff we don't like from the left, though? I don't like to be preached to from anybody.
No, I don't want to be preached from anybody.
Yeah,
I get annoyed with my conservative friends when they start like telling me things, and it's like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah,
don't act like I'm fucking stupid.
Well, it's about hooking you in first, reeling you in slowly, and then all of a sudden, pow, hit you with a message.
I just don't like propaganda, Mike. I don't like propaganda.
No, same here.
I don't care who it's from.
And the propaganda used to be more subversive. They used to be kind of better at sort of baking it into the cake, or, as Robert Davi says. It's
great example of that was the Battleship Potemkin.
Right.
That is a great fucking movie.
Right.
Oh, it's also propaganda for the communists. I don't care. That's a fucking great movie.
That dude knows what I'm talking about.
Talking about. This is not propaganda. I don't know
they turned Stormfront into a girl boss from a literal Aryan human experiment. Is that what you're talking about? I missed it.
Oh, that was in The Boys.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that.
I like that first season, man. I even
season 1.
Even when they go
Incredible's to better, or Invincible. I'm sorry, Invincible is better.
I didn't check that out. Is that good?
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
There is another thing too. It's kind of in the pop culture atmosphere. Did you anyone watch Summer Game Fest yesterday? Because John Carpenter announced a game that he's actually holding up called Toxic Commandos, and it's a first-person shooters with the undead.
Wow.
All right.
What
I'm not a
studio?
big zombie guy, but I might check that out.
What studio is going to make that? Does anybody?
I'll check right now because I'm already signed up for a beta. And if you want to sign up for the beta, you literally have to fill out an NDA because they're keeping it secret.
I think I might check this out.
He said
Somebody do you have your card? I want to see your comic card.
You don't get to see comic card. I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought he said comic convention, not comic.
Focus Entertainment and Saber.
Oh.
They are the ones doing Carpenter's game. Focus and Saber are doing John Carpenter's game.
Puts out some good stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
Carpenter said something about a sequel to The Thing with Kurt Russell.
Look, if they're going to do a sequel, it has to be they're hunting for this thing.
Here you go.
Yeah.
That it's finally maybe showed up.
Yeah, well, depending on when that sequel will take place, they won't need to hunt for it.
Yeah.
I'm sharing it down below.
I mean, you kind of with that ship.
I hope Childs is alive. I hope they both survived.
Yeah.
I fucking love Childs in that movie.
Well, they're both alive. I mean, it's not like you couldn't.
At the end, they are
still here.
And I've never been in that. Oh wait, I'm sorry. What, dude?
Kurt Russell's immortal. Keith David is still alive.
Yeah, Kurt Russell's like Tom Cruise. He'll never die.
Exactly. Keith David's still around, and he's a fabulous actor. I mean,
voiceovers.
All I got to say is he broke a priceless guitar in the movie Hateful Eight, and he's still around. Nobody killed him.
But I mean, there could be another one that escaped off that ship. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, that's the thing with The Thing.
Literally.
Is literally be anything. And my hope is that they actually did kill the thing that they had there in the camp.
Mm-hmm.
But that dog was not the last thing from the first camp.
Right.
There had to be more of that thing somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an awful lot of it. And it's not tiny. Yeah. And a lot of people go, well, it had to fly that ship. I said, if you pay attention, the ship is flying and then suddenly changes course. And what was inferred is that it took over the pilot and killed him. And that's when it was crashing, when he was taking him over. And
I never
it crashed.
thought about that.
And I love that. So we never know the true form of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
does the thing even have a true form other than maybe gelatinous? Like what's that character Odo was in Deep Space Nine?
Shapeshifter, founder.
Yeah, the foundlings. You know, that they might be just liquid. You know, I don't know. It's weird. But the thing still is, in my opinion, because even though I don't consider it scary, I consider it horrific. The idea, because it came out right after AIDS and all that shit. It was still called Grids when it was being made, and everybody was terrified of this thing. And they're talking about the subject. You know, we might have to make our own meals so we don't infect one another. That was in the psyche of the of America in particular at that time.
It was a true Cold War movie, is what it was.
Yeah, Cold War,
paranoia. I do have
paranoia.
something to share, if it's okay.
Yes, Steve. I'm sure it'll be to the point.
It is. If Martin or one of the other people want to actually share.
Oh, you want me to do it? There you go.
I'm not going to play the audio, but. No, hold on. Eventually, it's going to show what it was supposed to show. Why is it doing this? This is John Carpenter's Toxic Commando.
Cool.
I'm in. We showed enough. I don't want to get in trouble. That looks really good, dude.
Yeah.
That looks really good. I like the animation on that. No scans were done of my head. Doctor said it was probably nerve pain since I don't have any. I'm not caught up on this. Do you know what she's talking about?
She's was having headaches this morning, so she went to the doctor about it.
Oh, okay.
You remember when she fell on her trip and?
Yeah. Oh my God! Yeah. Got stitches.
Oh yeah. Just dropped screenshots of the new.
Well, you know, I thought she was just a snitch and was making up a story.
Straczynski 32 minutes ago just dropped the B5 animated movie pictures.
Yeah, I shared it.
I already shared it on my personal. Here, I'll show it. Let me pull it up on my page because I saw.
I don't like where they went with animation. They went Ruby Studio style, and I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, that's pretty standard for today. But let me share the screen here. It's par for the course. He's lucky he's getting anything.
Yeah, I saw those.
Oh my! I'm so ready for that.
Me too. I am too. Looking forward to this. I'm assuming that's Billy Mumi's character.
Yes, Lanier. Yep. That's Lanier. Yep. And the other Zathras. Oh man, I can.
Zathras.
They gave the doctor gray hair. The doctor has gray hair now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
they're all older.
What? I thought in cartoons people don't age.
Simpsons don't.
It's called cartoon physics. Everybody knows that. You don't age. Come on.
Yeah. Same with the original Star Trek cartoon. Everybody looks the same.
What are some of your favorite comics right now that you want to work on?
Oh geez, that I want to work on?
I know there are not very many.
Almost
all of them are independent.
It's funny, I forgot. I am doing something for your boy Zach, which is pretty cool. It's with Sergio Cariello and Chuck.
Sergio's a great guy,
so
man.
I love working on Sergio's stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I had my choice, I'd probably right now the children's book that I'm doing with Butch is like exactly what I want to be working on. But I guess if I could do something else, Nick Searcy sent me this really killer script like a couple of years ago called Infiltration, and it's based on a novel that he wanted to make into a movie, but he was like, I'll make it, why don't I make a graphic novel first? And so we kind of toyed around with the idea. I'd love to do that because it's very Sicario. I mean, it's all about the border and illegals and MS-13 conspiring with like ISIS or Al Qaeda to sneak a dirty bomb across and basically detonate it and utilize like the winds to contaminate all.
Now, are you talking about Nick Searcy, the actor?
Yeah,
I love that.
Justified. Guy. Yeah, he's awesome. He's a great guy and really talented guy. It's crazy. His first gig was Days of Thunder, and he's got this scene with Robert Duvall and Tom Cruise. He plays a sheriff that pulls him over. It's like a prank that they pull on Tom Cruise. They've got this hot stripper, or probably a call girl, dressed up as a cop, a sheriff, who's with Nick, who's a real sheriff, and she pretends to cuff him and whatnot because they pull him over for like transporting moonshine across state lines, something like that. But Nick, I'm like watching this movie, which I saw in the theater, and like I was watching it a couple of years ago, and we get to this scene, and it's at night, and there's Nick, and he's got this those wide brimmed sheriff's hats and the khaki shirt and everything, and I was like, holy shit! So I texted him. I'm like, you were in Days of Thunder? And he texted me back. He's like, yeah. He's like, that was my first gig. And I was like, wow. I mean, to cut your teeth with Tony Scott and Tom Cruise and Robert Duvall, you want to talk about lucky. That is like, that's pretty unbelievable. But yeah, Nick's been, I think Fried Green Tomatoes is probably, outside of Justified, is probably what most people think of when they think of Nick Searcy.
And I'm hoping he's in this revival of Justified.
No,
he's one of my favorite parts.
He's not in it. In fact, I don't think anybody is in,
because he's in Florida now in the story.
Nobody's in it other than Tim.
Yeah, because he's, I guess, in Florida. That's right. The plot, is that he moved to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, Raylan only appears in short stories from Elmore Leonard, and I've read them all. I've got all the books. Writing the Rap's probably the best, but I think. They had him working with the writers on Justified, so he was able to look at everything and kind of give it his seal of approval. And then once he was gone, I'm not sure if the writing was really the same. I don't see how it could be necessarily, right? So rest in peace, Tony Scott, one of the greatest film directors of the last 40 plus years. Just tremendous loss. So that scene at the end of Maverick, when it says "in memory of Tony Scott," like, dude, like I was,
you get tight in the throat.
I was like choked up like on a number of occasions in that movie because it just does that to you. But like,
and what I find amazing is that
when I saw Tony's name up on the screen, that's like the one spot where I almost lost it, and I was, because it's, I mean, he was out scouting locations right before, or about a year before for Maverick, and talking to Jerry and talking to Tom about what this movie should be. And it had a little bit of a different incarnation when it first started out. It was more about drone warfare versus the human person, the pilot. But, right. And then when you look at Tony's wife and those two beautiful blonde little boys, it's just, we're probably grown up now. It's just a huge loss, the creative loss as well, and that's two brothers that Ridley has lost, one to cancer and one to suicide.
It's why we ended up with Blade Runner. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh yeah, Ridley was ready to do Dune, and
he was ready to do Dune, and then his brother died, and he stepped away.
Yeah,
and he wasn't sure what he wanted to do, but they kept saying you need to do something, and so it ended up being Blade Runner.
Yeah. I think it was Ivor Powell said, why don't you take a look at that? Why don't you take a look at that script again that you said no to originally?
Dangerous Days.
Yeah,
that was the name of the script.
Right.
And it's amazing what ended up coming of that. Even though I consider the movie very flawed structurally.
Yeah, but that's like saying
so
this
beautiful
Kubrick movie is flawed, or this, or this, this Picasso is flawed. I mean,
I always refer to the flaws. The flaws in the film aren't really from what he was given.
Yeah,
it was what was taken from him.
Yeah,
because this is why I don't like Jerry Parenchio and Bud Yorkin, because they were the ones constantly fucking with him and firing.
I think both of those guys are gone now as well.
Yes, they are.
I think Bud left, and Bud.
I'm friends with David Yorkin, Bud's son. But David is the reason why we got the video game back in '97.
Okay.
And he pushed for that. Yeah. And he had to fight with his own dad to get that game made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They had a string. I remember because I founded the Blade Runner fan club, so I used to get emails from Hot Wheels and other toy manufacturers wanting to know about who to contact. I said, "This is who you contact. Send them the information." I said, "Good luck." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Because they will ask for exorbitant fees to license it.
Sure.
Ones that you will look at and you go, I cannot make any money off of that license."
Yeah.
And that's what happened. They would come back to me and they would send me, thank you for telling us that. And so it curbed their enthusiasm.
Who has it now? Alcon, is that it?
Alcon Entertainment.
Okay.
Who are a bunch of douche nozzles, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I worked for IDW, and the head of that department, Andy Schmidt, and I don't know if you know who Andy Schmidt is. He used to be head of Hasbro for IDW. Then he left IDW and went to work for Hasbro as the head of their entertainment division with all their properties. And Andy and I are still friends. Okay. And he and I teamed up with his brother. I forget his first name. But the three of us went to Alcon Entertainment saying that IDW wants to do this comic book. And, nobody knows Blade Runner. Hardly anybody knows Blade Runner like I do. And it's just, and Andy Schmidt, about the same way, and his brother, even is almost as big a fan as I am. Mm-hmm. And here we are telling him, IDW wants to do this. So we'll work with you on the licensing. I was part of that team to do this. Do you know what we got from Alcon Entertainment? Nothing. We got nothing but static from them.
Honestly, I'm amazed that movie got made and it turned out as well as it did. It's obviously 2049 is way too long, at least a half hour.
It's too long, and it's the budget was too high.
Yeah,
but
I don't like Robin Wright. I don't like Robin Wright at all. I thought she was very miscast. I don't like that set and the look of that interior. There's a lot of things about it that I was just kind of like, okay, it
was too sterile looking.
Some of this is Blade Runner and some of this is not. And the fact that Denny can't tell the difference between the two is troubling to me. I do think that the one guy who you have to hand your hats off to is Hans Zimmer, who was given the impossible task. The absolutely impossible task of trying to channel Vangelis, and yet he was able to do that. He gave something that was very faithful to the source material, but it was fresh and crisp and updated and interesting and engaging.
It was really intense.
And then the other thing was like Daft Punk's work on Tron. There are parts of Blade Runner 2049 where the music actually overpowers everything, all the elements, all of the visuals. That happened to me on 2049, where I think when Garrett goes onto the grid and then gets hauled away by one of those big tank thingies, the
two-leggers that
crush. Two-leggers, right? But I was just like, maybe the theater had it cranked up loud, but like the bass and everything, I started to vibrate, but I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, when you feel it in your chest, it's too loud.
I was like, I have to own this soundtrack. And
did you partake in, Brett, did you partake or watch the remix competition they had where they gave all the samples for all of the music from the Tron Legacy, and Daft Punk was saying, hey, if you can make a great remix and it wins, we'll feature you on the album as well. So that's where Glitch Mob came into effect and everything else. So they had all of their tracks for the songs that were allowed to be remixed in that competition available to everybody. And so you got all these stems, all these samples broken down MP3s, and you can just go to town, even if you didn't want to join the remix competition, you had those assets available if you were like a DJ and stuff.
That's really cool.
That is cool. That is really cool.
Trust me, I downloaded everything and I went through all their stuff. Glitch Mob nailed it. Some of the melodies, they did. Some people who tried to remix ruined the melodies of what made, like, especially when they're on the light cruiser, the light beam cruiser.
Yeah.
And it goes across the Star Ocean. A lot of people ruin that melody. I'm like, that melody is what kept it together. You have to not overdraw it. The music makes a great part. Tron Legacy is the only thing saving that film, I think, is the soundtrack.
Yeah, I loved everything. I loved the look of it. I thought that the visuals were just perfect. I thought it was a great. Again, they stayed really faithful to the source material and kept it kind of dated looking, but everything looked fresh and interesting.
The only screw up they had, Brett, was the CG de-aging. It was just terrible.
It's tough. And
they should fix it now.
I think Garrett's a really good actor. I think that he's a little stiff because I think some of the dialogue is a little hokey. I don't like the opening scene with the guard out on the beam with him. Yeah. That just bugs me. There's no way some fat security guard's going to go out onto a beam with some burglar basically.
Hey, I do it.
I love that whole
Paul Blart did it.
Paul Blart did it.
There's just but you're right. I think the worst thing about it is the de-aging, which was pretty new at the time. It was still in its infancy. There were no deep fakes, deepfake technology at that time. It probably could have benefited from something like that. I mean,
they can absolutely fix it now.
We've seen people do a better job than ILM at this point, with the Mandalorian and doing Mark Hamill with a deep fake rather than, because ILM stuff I don't think looked that great. I think the Princess Leia looks hokey.
It looked terrible. The eyes
yeah, man, but I wanted to love Legacy, and I largely do, but I kind of cut it some slack on the Jeff Bridges de-aging because it's so early. It's kind of like pioneering. But they couldn't even light it correctly. But there's no way to hide, when you're doing something like that. So,
all 2049 hate in the chat, man. I don't know if I feel comfortable here anymore, man.
But I loved everything else about it.
If I can take it, you can take it.
But I thought overall, I thought it was great. I thought there was a good story there with Jeff and redemption at the end, and that screaming match between him and Bit. I think all that was awesome, and I think that's it. I think it had some.
I like the happy ending,
philosophical questions.
Her leaving the grid.
I did too. I thought that was cool.
That was like fucking awesome.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that was really interesting, and I was looking forward to a sequel where Cillian Murphy would come in and play the son, and maybe there would be kind of the characters would evolve. These two guys are struggling for the power over NCOM, outside the grid and inside the grid, but. They've never been able to get it together. And I think it's largely because there's such a lack of any real talent employed in Hollywood. It's not to say that there isn't talent in Hollywood, but all of the diversity hires and just basically the death of standards and the corporate model and these corporate templates that they put over everything, it just kills creativity. And there are so many talented people in Hollywood, so many talented writers. They're not given any work, they're not given a chance, and sometimes it comes down to the fact that they're white and they're male, and that sucks. It really sucks because there's a great Tron script out there, and nobody's ever gonna read it.
Yeah,
I'm bothered by one thing with Tron is that they never ran into the cast of Reboot. I swear to God, Bob's a Guardian, right? Where the hell is Enzo?
Yeah.
What?
No one else watched Olivia Wilde was great in that.
Yeah, I watched Reboot and I like it a lot, but I don't know if
picture Tron music with a Reboot if they ever decide to do a feature film, and it would work because it would be the same pretense, except you're actually dealing with actual people who live within the computer system.
By the way, just to let you know, Tim, Disney, I should say Lucasfilm technically, hired one of the best deep fake artists out there. He's the one that got brought in to fix Luke Skywalker.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was all thanks to Corridor Crew because they showed his work. And Lucasfilm was like, we need to hire that guy.
Yeah.
And they did. And they brought him in and it was much better. But they need to go in and spend a little bit of money and just fix all the Jeff Bridges scenes.
Yeah.
And bring it back and re-release it in 4K.
Yeah.
Can we do that with the Grand Moff Tarkin scene in Rogue One?
Can we just say screw it all and just focus on new stories, new characters, maybe in the Outer Rim or something that has to do with
we need to get away from doing prequels. I'm not a big fan of doing prequels to begin with. I like the stories moving forward.
Way forward. They need to go decades forward.
The reason why is we know the outcome for the most part, what they're doing. I just like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre prequel because I'm like, well, wait a minute. I know none of these fuckers are going to die. So
I can't imagine having the hubris to say you're going to do something that's pre-Toby Hooper. That's just nuts to me. That movie is like still so
graphic.
Well, it's just so avant-garde. It's like so out
it
there.
Is.
When I look at it,
a lot of people know it's also partly a comedy.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's satire.
And John, was it you? Who was it that said something about that? Because I brought up the fact that when Leatherface goes around the corner to chase her before Daddy comes,
he does the curly shuffle.
He does the curly shuffle around the corner. One leg goes out and he's got the chainsaw smoke trailing behind. And he goes around the corner. And in the theater, I went,
Even what's his name when he's in the van with them. You know, I mean, he's kind of fucking with everybody. You know, these guys were just sort of like antagonizing and provoking people for the sake of antagonizing and provoking people. You know, and then they just so happen to kill and eat them as well.
Yeah, but the weirdest crap is, as we were saying, like you were saying before, is like this is the thing. Let's take it as an example that we're in a galaxy far, far away. A galaxy is huge, right? Right. So why is it we're only focusing on the one sand planet and one mobile Death Star?
One family.
Exactly.
It's familiar. That's why.
It's familiar. But there's families
the
everywhere.
Star Wars saga, as Mark Millar just recently said, I think it was him. I'm pretty sure it was him. Said that the Star Wars saga was about one family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Okay.
It's just a simple answer.
I
It's
think
about one family. You can
Lucas
expand on it just fine, but those original films, the first trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and the sequel trilogy should have all followed the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is the bloodline.
Yeah,
Period.
Lucas has said the same thing. He said literally it's a soap opera, just so happens to have
About a
spaceships
family.
and action and stuff like that. But he said but it's a soap opera about this family and about family.
Yep. And but I love the idea of expanding the universe, even though I didn't read a lot of the expanded universe books. I know they're good. I stuck to certain ones. I like the Bounty Hunter series. I like the Han Solo series.
Han Solo books
That's why I
are
didn't
so
mind
good.
Andor.
Well, the first trilogy was Han Solo at Star's End, The Lost Legacy, and what was the third one? I forget the name of it. It was 3 books.
Oh, it's Anne Crispin's. It's Anne Crispin's. 3 books. It's the Han Solo series.
Yeah, that is a great trilogy.
It's amazing. It's fantastic. I didn't even know that I didn't even know the
AC
author.
Crispin, yeah.
It's like S.E. Hinton. I didn't know that that's a woman. You know, I mean,
well, they would do that on purpose.
Absolutely, they would. But when I found out that it was a woman, I was like, wow. Like, how does a chick write not only a man, but that man?
Fucking
so
Han
well?
Solo so correctly.
Because I mean, she pulled. It's like it's the same Han from the movies, or from at least A New Hope. It's kind of like, how do you get to that Han? How do you get to that cynical, kind of hardened space pirate, gunslinger, outlaw, and so she's working backwards. And I thought that it was believable. Like, it was convincing to me that this is how we got to this point. When I watched Solo, Star Wars story, I was just kind of incensed that they didn't pull from anything from her books. And I just figured there's got to be some stuff that they could pull from this, because she was able to achieve with those 3 books is far more convincing as to where Han started than that movie. And I thought that kid did a good job. Again, he's got an impossible job. I thought it looked great. I thought, it was basically a Western. It was a heist movie. I thought that was cool. And I like that he shot first. I thought that was a pretty bold.
The big mistake was
ending.
that somebody else named him Han Solo. And I'm like,
no.
The one thing I loved about
that was a dumb scene. That was just dumb.
There was one thing I loved, and I think it came from the Thrawn trilogy. This is why I'm so hyper focused on the Outer Rim, because one of the books is literally Han and I think Chewie. They're going into a Imperial facility that is like, I think it's orbiting a black hole, and they steal the Sun Crusher. If everyone remembers, that was a ship that had ultimate power. And I'm thinking, why don't we have Imperial remnants or some type of remnants that are on the Outer Rim? And then it brings up someone else who is not knowing the Force but is Force sensitive, and they have to find their own path to become a Jedi that is not even connected to Coruscant or Jedi temples, and actually build. There's your building right there. You can have Imperial remnants that are literally making their own forces, nothing to do with Darth Vader, but they're trying to take over other places because they can't win on the interior. And that whole Outer Rim is available, and that brings up bounty hunters. That brings up characters we've never seen before, races we've never seen before, and Disney just kicked it to the curb. But it's there. The whole pretense of building a new universe within that universe is there. And that drove me nuts, because that Sun Crusher was just, that whole breaking in and stealing was great. Does anyone know what I'm talking about from the storylines from the Thrawn trilogy?
I do.
Yep.
I think there's so much that could be done. And then on top of that, there's talent out there not only to work on existing properties, right, but there's probably scripts out there and characters out there and potential IPs that would blow all of our minds. And the only reason that they're not getting green lit is because of politics. I mean, intra politics within the studios, as well as the kind of politics and activism that they're trying to push on the outside. And at the end of the day, all of these studios, when they do that, they're creating within the divide. And that's not what Hollywood used to do. That's not what Hollywood should do. Hollywood needs to create outside of the divide as a way to pull everyone in.
What's messed up is they're all living and have technology based in the future way above us, right? So you'd think they would reach a point of coming together to create this technology where sociopolitical nonsense would have no relevance in a future where you're trying to better mankind. And I think that's where the failure is across all these platforms. We're boldly going to seek new life, new civilizations, and yet I can't get on the bridge because some feminist is whining in the elevator.
Look what they've done.
That's not how it works.
Look what they've done to Star Trek. They've ruined it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Shatner said something on Twitter. Somebody asked him, "Why aren't you in this commercial? Why don't they show your face?" And he's like, "You're surprised by that?" And it just, I was like, "Wow, Bill must be really on the outs with everybody."
Well, here's the thing: the audience is not a bunch of 90-year-old guys. And much respect to Shatner, obviously he has his place in the pantheon. But I think as somebody who's been a fan of Star Trek, and I'm 48, since I was pretty much born into it, I think we make the mistake of thinking that every piece of Star Trek is going to be suitable for every single generation. Star Trek right now,
I don't think it has anything to do with suitability. It has to do with quality.
I don't. That's how quality is subjective. What you think is quality differs from what I think.
No, I'm talking about the technical aspects of quality.
The technical aspect is not where we make the money. The consumer aspect.
You've got the writing. Writing is not an opinion. Writing is done a certain way. If it doesn't follow the process correctly, it becomes bad.
Your fan either likes it or they don't. Period.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
It does not mean that it's going to be good. I mean, you're trying to sell me the idea that if something's shit, that it's okay because I like shit. Well, I'm not fine with it. If you like shit, that's okay.
I love new Star Trek, and am I an idiot? No. It's subjective.
I think that it's subjective only in the fact that you like things that aren't written well.
That's not your.
You don't have a greater expectation of your entertainment.
That is not your place to say that any more than it would be my place.
Can I just say something?
Subjectivity is. That's what subjectivity is. That's literally the definition of subjectivity.
I've got an objective angle on this, and that is that currently there is no one comparable from the standpoint of a male lead currently in Star Trek that even comes close to James T. Kirk. And I'm not talking about Chris Pine.
Well, they don't
I'm
have
talking
any
about
like that.
William Shatner. And I'm talking about, if you have a young boy out there, if you have a son, if you have a nephew, who's a great role model? The 60s?
There's no Picard. There's no
or Anson Mount.
No characters like those.
Yeah,
there's no gravitas of any current characters.
Frankly, a kid is not going to be interested in some bald old man. I don't.
That's right.
I don't know. Professor X was still pretty popular.
But I know a couple girls, millennial girls, who love watching the old series because the characters are more traditional and the men are masculine and they're tough and they live by a code.
Are you sure? Wait, but are you sure it's not because they can't get laid? And I'm relating that back to King's Portal's kind
of. No, these are attractive girls.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't because they couldn't get laid.
But I wanted to share something with you, Brett, that happened because I was working with Tom Waltz from IDW and Richard Bonk, and we were going to put out a comic book, and we wanted to do it as a limited series, and it was Indiana Jones, and we came up with the entire storyline. It was written like a movie, so it had the disconnected beginning, just like James Bond, where you have the ending of another story. And we sent it to Dark Horse, and they loved it. They loved it. And they loved the talent. Richard Bonk being the lead artist on it. I would be co-writing it with Tom Waltz and helping with the artwork. Everything was going to go really well, but there was a problem. We can't do it, they said to us. Dark Horse said that. We just can't do it. And he couldn't explain why, because he loved it. And I'm like, what's going on? it was right around the time of The Cell. And Dark Horse was already given, orders, marching orders.
Wow.
And he couldn't say anything because it hadn't been made official publicly yet. And it broke my heart. But Richard, Tom, and I have talked recently about going back and trying to sell it again.
Yeah,
try
you
to
should.
get it going.
I mean, you should. I mean, I don't know what this new one is going to be like, but it looks like, it looks like a Mary Sue character, and it looks like they have emasculated Harrison. I'm not interested in seeing emasculated characters. I want strong male leads, and currently there really aren't any out there. Not like the ones we used to have. Assertive, tough, masculine guys who are confident and skillful. Maybe they don't talk that much because their actions do their talking for them. And it's just sad to me that young boys don't have any positive male masculine role models on the big screen, really, other than Tom Cruise. Tom still plays, with Ethan Hunt, I think a great character. And at least there is that from that standpoint of stories that have high adventure that boys can go and watch. And
what about Fast X?
Cranked up.
The Fast series.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's probably the closest thing maybe to some of the 80s action flicks. Whenever I think of Fast, I always think of No Man's Land with D.B. Sweeney and Charlie Sheen, which is kind of similar to the premise, I think, of the first Fast movie, where the cop goes undercover to infiltrate the whole underground car market and everything, whatnot. And I'm always disappointed that No Man's Land, which was in heavy rotation, I think on HBO or something back in the 80s, it's never been put on Blu-ray. So when you buy it, you get the formatted version, which is like the worst thing in the world to discover.
Yeah, that 4:3 and
get out of here, Jimmy. Because that's a great. There's no CG in that movie. Charlie Sheen only steals Porsches, so it's got lots of car chase sequences with these beautiful Porsches and Lamborghinis and 80s cars. But you don't get the full effect unless you've got that wide angle lens, and it's a cropped Picasso. It's just awful. Yeah. So I'm hoping like Shout Factory or somebody will get the negative of that thing and put it out, because they've done some great work. So there's a couple companies like that have been going back and grabbing those old 80s films that are sort of cult hits and re-releasing them on Blu-ray. They just do some. I've got the Red Dawn Shout Factory, which is just awesome. It's got all these great extras and beautiful cover artwork and new packaging. It's very cool.
Nice.
Now, speaking of French Connection, I mean, gosh, you want to talk about owning hard copies. I've owned that for a long time, and I don't have to worry about a certain word being omitted.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I need to let everybody know that KGRA is going to end that broadcast, but we're going to continue on YouTube. I just asked Bill if he could do that so we can continue talking on this subject for a little bit longer. Bill, are we able to do that, Bill? Oh, he left.
Yeah, he said read the private chat.
You don't Let's keep going. John and Martin know how to end stream. Okay.
No, I don't.
No, in the stream.
Yeah.
Do you know? He's not talking about peeing, Martin.
Yeah.
Oh. I should have said that.
Actually, it's going to have to be Martin, because I've got to go. Because it's 3
o'clock.
All right.
Well, I can end it too. I mean, I'm the main host.
So it was great to meet you, Brett.
You too.
And William.
We lost Keith, by the way, and his connection is just bad. But you were about to say about Indiana Jones. Take care, John.
All right, see ya. Everybody have a good
Bye,
day.
John.
You too.
Later, dude.
Later, man.
He's driving into town.
Yes, I want to leave.
What?
What did he say?
I did not catch that.
So you're about to say about Indiana Jones. Brett.
Oh, what was I going to say about Indiana Jones?
Bridge something? I heard you say something.
What was it?
Fuck if I know.
What?
I'm older. So
I was going to ask. Does anybody know there was an autopsy on Ray Stevenson? Do you have any idea what happened to him? Because he was awfully damn young.
All we know still at this point is that the first report out of New Zealand was that he was overcome by a what I'm trying to remember the phrasing of it, an unknown virus.
Ooh.
And I don't know what that was about, and then nobody else has talked about it.
Jeez.
And there's a lot of hemming and hawing. People go, no. It's like, I found it funny. One guy posted, says, it was not because of COVID jobs. And I said, and how do you know that?
Yeah.
How do you know that? You're just saying that.
Yeah,
you're feeding into misinformation yourself.
We just rewatched Rome, both seasons.
God, he's so good in that.
He's just amazing. I hate to say it, but I kind of forgot how good he is in that. I mean, he's really the crux of the entire show. You think, I mean, it's really about him and Varenis, but at the same time, and Kevin McKidd is just such an amazing talent. I think the first time I saw him was probably Train Spotting. He plays Tommy, and but I thought that it's John Milius obviously probably obviously he was the creator and the producer on the show, but it's just so genius to have the story about these two men, and history is kind of framed around them and they around history, because there is I think a lot of history in Rome, and then obviously a lot of fiction. They kind of I'm not exactly sure how much what the percentage is, but it's a fascinating series, and again, a great way to get people interested in history is to make shows like that, because then you get geeks like me and I think others who go online and start researching Mark Antony, or Octavius, and some of these people, who were they? Some of the characters obviously in Rome aren't real; they're fictional, but it's just genius. I just think it's absolutely just a genius show. It reminds me of Deadwood, in the sense that they had this really amazing show and these great writers and great cast, and HBO pulled the plug on both of them because they were really
weird
expensive.
when they do that. Yeah, but this is a show I bet you've never heard of. Kevin McKidd starred in this show as one season, and it was really well written and very dramatic, good sci-fi show.
Okay.
That had a mystery of what was going on with him, that he kept just boundingly traveling through time instantly. And then he'd find himself back in the present. It was a really good fucking show. So part of the show's in the past, part of the show's in the present.
Gotcha.
And I don't know why it didn't catch on, man. It was just one of those shows. And Kevin McKidd is really good at it.
Kevin's, I'm pretty sure Kevin replaced Patrick Dempsey on
he did.
Grey's Anatomy. So, Kevin's obviously gone on to big things. Ray, to me, is just an amazing actor and has done so many different things. He's the Punisher.
Yep.
Blackbeard. He's,
Black Sails. He was in Black Sails, yes.
Right. Yeah, just a guy who had such screen presence. One of those actors like Harrison or like Russell Crowe, who when they're on the camera, they just eat it all up.
Absolutely. And he was really good in Dexter.
Okay, yeah.
He had a really good season on Dexter. He was a gay hitman that Dexter kills his partner.
Okay. And then who did Ray play in Thor?
Oh shit, I forget the character's name, the bearded character. Yeah.
Right. Shit, that's gonna bother me. But yeah, he was perfect for that. It's tough. I liked. I thought he was a good Punisher. I wasn't too keen on that director.
Well, she did a good job. Here's the problem. I was explaining it the other day.
Was it not her fault, or was it?
No, it was Lionsgate. Anytime they would run into a disagreement with the making of the film, it was contractually put in there that Lionsgate, whatever Lionsgate said, was the answer, no matter what it was.
Okay.
And a lot of the over-the-top stuff that got added in there, the over-the-top stuff that was weird, was Lionsgate, apparently. Because she talked about it in an interview a few years back. And she was explaining what happened there. And here's the other problem. It came out 4 years too early.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4 years later, it would have been a different tune. We probably wouldn't have gotten a Ray Stevenson, but that was the other problem, because that was a very ultra-violent Punisher. and I liked it. I'm very fond of that film.
It reminded me of the Max series very much, and I think that's kind of where they were pulling.
They were going. It's exactly what they were going for. My problem with the film was I don't like what's his name that played Jigsaw.
I think that was a bad cast. I like that dude. He's very talented.
He's a good actor.
He's great in The Wire, but I just don't think that he was the right guy for Jigsaw.
Yeah. And the makeup was good too, but it was over the top. And the film should have been. It was when you start going for a certain look, that look is grounded in reality. That's where you need to go with it. If you're going to ground your character in reality, then you need to make the film grounded in reality. And that's where they kept flip-flopping.
Yeah.
The whole guys jumping around shit. That really bad visual effect of him shooting a rocket into a guy in midair was just really hokey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things wrong with it, but there were so many things that were right with it.
Yeah.
And Ray Stevenson was part of it. He was the best part of that film. And he is, in my personal opinion, cinematically, not television. Cinematically, he's my favorite Punisher. Then, of course, clearly Barenthal for the TV version, because he nails Punisher.
Is that coming back? Is Marvel gonna? Okay. Is that confirmed? They're going to do a new Punisher series for?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Because
back.
I mean, they just kick the character in the balls and put him to sleep.
Well, they need to change it and make it more comic accurate and get him back to fighting organized crime.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what they did to him in the comics recently, I think, is temporary. They'll probably.
We don't even need to talk about that. We'll just pretend it didn't happen.
Well,
you don't like the new goat logo or whatever the hell that is on his chest?
No. After the logo, the last thing they did.
Well, we can wrap it up now. I just wanted to make sure we followed this discussion to its conclusion. And I hate when we feel like we haven't finished the conversation. I feel like we nailed it.
I was going to say, without Rome, I don't think you'd have Game of Thrones.
No.
And it's kind of
I think it's both Rome. There are two things: Rome and Spartacus that led to Game of Thrones.
And also I often throw Conan the Barbarian in there too a little bit, because there is a little bit of sword and sorcery, that comes out of the Game of Thrones, obviously, but
right.
Yeah, it's all those things. I think
I did like a lot of the fight scenes in that show.
I think you'd have Game of Thrones. I just don't think you'd have the Game of Thrones that we have now. I don't think they would feel that they had the license to do. The violence and the pushing the envelope. You'd have a Game of Thrones, but it would probably be closer to a Potterverse or a Harry Potter's.
It would be like PG-13.
I hate to admit it, but yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, I hadn't even heard of Game of Thrones. I was sitting down, and my late friend Kevin Watkins came over by the house, and because he had talked about it at a party, said something to me. I said, I've never seen that. He just shows up at my house with all the seasons up to season 4, all of them on a discs, and he brought them to me. He says, watch this. So I sat down over a week and binged that series, and I'm like, holy shit, this is good. I've never seen so much hanging dicks on a TV show.
So some of it's good, some of it's not. I mean, I think it starts out strong. I mean, that can be debated, but it was. I mean, it was a popular show. I mean, I don't know how many millions of people tuned into that show every week, but it was a lot. I think 20.
Look, Peter Dinklage is why I watch that show every.
Me too. Yeah, funny enough, me too.
Him and the daughter, the youngest one. I thought she was cool.
Arya.
Arya.
Yeah, she was cool.
I liked her character. Then I got a crush for what's her name, the giant blonde. I had a big crush on her.
Oh yeah, Brienne.
Brienne of Tarth.
A beautiful woman as tall as me, if not taller. Fuck yeah.
Star Wars thing.
Yes.
And you never get to see her.
There's a wasted character. I always got mad because she should have had something better. I like that character.
Without a helmet. I mean, come on. She's
Captain Phasma.
She's attractive. Why put a helmet on her? It's just crazy.
Well, I wanted to see more of her in it, but at the same time, that woman knows how to sword fight. I wanted to see her fight and be used. Oh, anyway, I don't want to get into it. I was
Red Sonja. Anyone? You know?
She was at one time. I think she could have been it. She's too old now.
Yeah, I know. It's just ridiculous.
Too old now. Ridiculous. 10 years ago. Yeah. But this is it, guys. I'm going to wrap this shit up. Poor Martin's like, I've got to go to the bathroom.
Oh, no. You can't forget about that.
Oh, did you already go in the chair? It happens sometimes.
What happened, happened.
Whatever happens on Pop Culture Minefield stays at Pop Culture Minefield. We had Mexican Iron Man on here earlier, narking on. Who was he narking on, Martin? Who did he narc on?
Oh, no, you.
No, I narked on Tom and Andre, but he narked on somebody. I can't remember who it was he narked on.
Oh, I can't remember.
And Monkey Jeebus threatened to tell him. Oh, Robert Meyer Burnett and Chris from...
No. What happened was Mexican Iron Man talked shit about California.
He's talking shit about California. And Monkey said that I'm going to tell Chris, Robert Meyer Burnett, and somebody else. And he says... And then he just comes right out. Mexican Iron Man says, yeah, make sure I said that it's an absolute shithole.
Unfortunately, it has become one.
It was funny. I love Mikey. That's Mexican Iron Man. But anyway, Brett, thanks for dropping in, man.
Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to have fun this time and not. I felt like just make you part of the panel. So
no, that's cool. No, happy to do it. So hopefully I'll have some cool visuals, more visuals to show next time.
Yeah, let's do a show and tell next time I have you on.
Okay.
Bring some shit with you, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I will.
This is more just to get your pulse and let you talk about some stuff.
No, it's fun. I always love, I can talk movies, and TV and animation and stuff like that, till the cows come home. So, and love doing it with other people who feel the same way. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, buddy.
Hey,
well, anyway,
give Kyle his video. He just arrived.
Oh, Zax is here. Okay, yeah, I'll give you your video. I made this just for Kyle. Where's it at? There it is. This is for you, Kyle.
Hey, fuck you, Kyle.
There you go. Have you seen that movie?
What is that?
Renfield.
Oh, okay. I haven't. I heard
go watch that movie.
I heard mixed things about it, but it looked.
Don't listen to anybody on this one. Just walk in understanding. Don't take this movie seriously.
It's Nick Cage.
It is meant to be tongue-in-cheek comedy.
Okay.
It is absolutely absurd, silly. The opening scenes are almost worth the price of admission. Seeing Nick Cage and the young kid faces replacing the original actors from the 1933 Dracula.
Nosferatu, right? Gotcha. Okay.
Not Nosferatu.
Not Bela Lugosi. It's Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, it's Bela Lugosi. Yeah, it's Nick Cage's face. Instead of Dwight Fritz, whatever his name, Fritz, playing Renfield, it's the kid in the movie.
Okay.
And it's got Nicolas Cage's face, but it's the same sets and it's filmed and felt the same. They did it clearly with AI or something. It's just really well done, and I laughed my ass off at that. And Dracula is so over the top that Nick Cage is chewing up the scenery in this movie. Every bit of it is worthwhile. I laughed my ass off. It's stupid and fun at the same time.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
I mean, when you see Renfield go Kung Fu Matrix on some of these bad guys, the SWAT guys are bad guys. And he leaps up and comes down and catches a guy on a rail leaning over backwards and takes his head backwards, ripping his head open, neck open. It's so fucking over the top gory.
Yeah.
The blood is everywhere. And I just laughed so hard at that movie. Even my girlfriend, who doesn't like horror, loves that movie. She was laughing at that film. It's so silly.
Well, it's when you push it to those boundaries, it starts to become abstract, and then it's kind of less.
There's an element of abstraction to the way this film is made. I mean, Dracula making deals with the mob. There you go. That's this movie. I got to tell you, do watch it, dude. I want to get you to report back on that one.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, you bet. Post it on Twitter. I will share the fuck out of it.
Cool.
Let's see. Anyway, that's it, guys. I want to thank everybody for being here. I know some guys had to drop out, but we appreciate everybody dropping in. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It's always lively. At least we try to make it lively. I don't know. It's sort of like a fart. Sometimes it smells, and sometimes you just go, "Where'd that thing go?"
My goodness.
I know I let that thing loose, and nothing. That's Pop Culture Minefield. Bye, guys.
Those sons of bitches.
Ma, I'm doing a show.